So are you always on the lookout for good money-making projects that you can make in your shop without any kind of advanced tools? Well, if so, stick around because today I'm going to show you how I put $15 worth of material into a project that sells for $150 or more. It's a simple wine caddy that can easily be used for picnics or out on the beach. Now, these particular types of caddies sell online for $150 to $200 each. However, it only takes about $15 worth of material, and that includes some pretty nice hardwood like maple and walnut.
All right, so I failed to record the first part, but all I've done here is done a simple glue up with about 9 inches of spalted maple there in the middle and 3 inches on the front and back of black walnut. I think it just gives it a neat look. I'm sanding it to 120 grit right now, and then we will raise the grain by just simply wiping it down. It also cleans off any kind of leftover sawdust. Then we'll let that dry and then sand to a 220. That gives it a nice buttery smooth finish. Once we have the bottom tray finished, now it's time to make the top part. So I'm going to cut that down to size, about 26 inches, using my miter saw. Then I'm going to take it over to the planer, trim it down to about 3/4 of an inch. Now you do see a lot of dust flying out. It was just clogged up at this point. You'll see that later on I actually clean it out. And now we're going to use the table saw to cut this down to about 5 inches deep. And then I'm also going to do a glue up with another piece of walnut to give a similar look up there. Now I don't have a jointer, so to get a nice clean edge for jointing for doing my glue up, I'm just using my CNC. Again, you don't have to have a CNC for this type of a project, but since I have one, I'm going to use it. And you'll notice it gives a great joint right there. Both of those sides were done with the CNC, and that's about perfect. From there, let's do a simple glue up. You know what that looks like, so I won't waste a lot of time. What I will do is mention that I like to use wax paper on my pipe clamps when I'm doing a glue up. That helps to limit the amount of glue that gets on the clamps, and then also the cauls themselves, which makes it easier to get those cauls off with the minimum amount of sanding. Clamp everything up nice and tight, let it dry overnight. Then we take everything apart and revel at our greatness. Now there's a little bit of dried glue on there. I keep a hand plane blade handy so that I can use that. I found that's just as good of a way to get rid of those little glue drops as anything. Then I am going to take it back over to my planer and I'm going to give it a couple finishing passes just to clean that up slightly. And you'll notice sawdust was cleaned out. From there, we'll sand it down to a 220, just as we did before. I won't go through that process again, but that's what we do. Now, once we have those pieces, you do not have to use a CNC to do this, but since I have one, I'm going to. You can easily use a circle cutting jig or any other method that you want. All you have to do is be able to cut a couple of circles out. The diameter of those circles are going to vary depending on the size bottles you have. Then we also need to cut out the tracks for the glasses to sit in. And then once we have that done, I'm just going to use a palm router. It ends up being just as quick as a CNC to get this part done. So that's going to give a nice little rounded edge there. And then once again, you don't have to have a CNC. You can easily use a jigsaw or any other kind of saw to cut these out or a drill press. But I like to have just a little pocket there and not cut all the way through. So I'm using a 3/4 inch bowl bit so that I can have those handles there, but still have the top side maximum surface for a serving area. All right, I've got a couple of dowels. I'm going to put these in at about 9 inches. The height will vary depending on the size glasses that you want it to work for. But for me, 9 inches was a good height. Now, when you glue these together, make sure that they are at a 90-degree angle. The last thing you'd like to see is for them to be really wonky and your top tray tilted one way or the other. You also have the opportunity, if you don't want to glue them up, you can screw them in so that you can take it apart. But I like the idea of it staying nice and sturdy. So once we have everything together, I'm going to apply some Odie's oil here. I love Odie's oil for this type of project. It's my preferred finish. In hindsight, the next time I do this, I will apply the Odie's before I assemble everything because that made it a little bit more difficult. And there you go. That walnut and spalted maple sure is beautiful. And then now finally, we're going to put some little simple rubber feet on there. If you'd like to pick any of these up, again, there is a link also down in the description for you. And here we go. It's nice and finished. Looks pretty. You see the hand grips underneath. And hopefully my friend's baby mama will love it.